Recording.
Hello, I'm Dan Forte. I've recently written a book called Today's Legacy. It is the first in a series of novels called the North Shore series. Today's Legacy is an important book. It is the first book. The first book, called Today's Legacy, it tells everything that's about to happen in the rest of the series. It's important because it has the backbone of everything that is about to happen. If you haven't checked out my book, I suggest you do so right now. It is a momentous uh, book that's going to be world famous. Right there up with J.K. Rowling. Now, I wrote this book because it, it started off first as a short story. When I was 13 or 14, my mom took me to Mohawk College. And at Mohawk College, in the library, there wasn't much to do other than read economics or history or anything like that. But so what she did, she put me down in front of a computer and basically she just said, surf the internet or write a book or whatever. Well, she didn't say write a book. That's what happened afterwards. She said, just write something or just fool around on the computer. She just had to get her homework done because at that time she was in college. So basically, I just sat down, I surfed the internet for a little bit. I didn't have an email account back then and didn't really know much about the internet. It was, I wouldn't say it was new, but because it wasn't that new. It had been out for probably at that time about probably about 5-10 years. Because this was back in 1995 or 90. No, yeah, it was 94, 95. It was back then, and basically I sat down. The internet was new, so I didn't really know too much about it, so I didn't spend a lot of time on it. And I just sat down and started writing. And I just started these characters. I didn't really know what it was going to be about. I just sat there and started writing and just typing away, typing away, typing away. About an hour later, my mom came over, saw that I got about 5 pages, and she said that's pretty good. She went to print it and deleted the whole thing. So, from that loss, I started the new series, or the new short story again, and it took me about an hour and a half, and I actually got 10 pages. Good thing I remembered everything that I've written. So apparently the first try wasn't the best one, but second time around, the short story was really good. It was over 10 pages. I think it was almost 15, and that was a short story. That title was Today's Legacy, and it still sticks to the first book. And actually, the chapter titled Today's Legacy is actually the full short story. It's been, of course, modified, updated, and expanded to actually coincide with the rest of the book, but that is the core of what Today's Legacy came out of that short story. And the short story was excellent. It was really good. Everyone who read it really wanted to know more about it, and they actually wanted to get to know the characters even more. So that's why I expanded it into another short story, which then expanded into another short story, which became all the rest of the chapters. I had to go from like a starting point to figure out, okay, you know what, this is where the story starts. Otherwise, I could have went right from like 20 years ago before this actual short story began, with all backstory, which I kind of end up doing in the series anyways. So basically, Today's Legacy was born out of that little short story, which became a bigger short story. The rest of the series, of course, is almost the same way, because I had intended Today's Legacy to only have a sequel, and the sequel, of course, is Tomorrow's Tales and Yesterday's Past. Crooker Island began as a smaller short story that was totally different than anything else. But some of it actually does coincide with the rest of the series, and some of it, of course, stands out as a separate a separate identity, but it does still smooth goes smoothly through the rest of the series, and there's a whole bunch of connections between what happens in the first book and Crooker Island, which is, you know, huge because they're two separate short stories at the very core, but it is still part of the one big huge story and big huge plot line that I have in the North Shore series. And there's 9 books in the North Shore series, which I did purposely. I only wanted 9. I could have had 10, actually 12 in this series, but I stuck with 9 because I like the number 9, and it sounded like it's much more concluded at the 9th book than if I were to actually go on and like fully beat the horse to death, as it were. So I started a brand new series from the 10th book onwards. And so today's legacy is, it's very important because it does speak to the coming generation. It, it really is about me. It's a personal thing that I've got to know for the past 15, 16, 17 years, however long ago I wrote this book. Like, I've been editing it and re-editing it and re-editing it to make it as perfect and as polished as I possibly can. And that's what has taken me so long. I've put so much effort and so much work into this first book that the rest of the series, it didn't take me long to write at all because it was so much easier writing the rest of the books than it was to write this first one. This first one took me so long. It was challenging to actually get it done right, and have everything fit, and that's what it is. So it speaks to the next generation, speaks to the new generation. Anyone can associate themselves with it. They can pick out a character and identify with that. It makes a great movie, actually, and it just has that great impact. It's very valuable, a very valuable book. There's tons of lessons in it, and it speaks volumes to where we were and where we are going, and where we will be in the future. There's so many things that goes on in the book, including human rights, LGBT rights, equality. Um, it's so much more. Like, even how poverty is still a major factor in our world today. It speaks volumes. It comes from the heart, and it speaks about current issues, right? What we have to do in our society today. Why do we feel the way we do? Why do we struggle with all the issues that we struggle with? And that's a very important lesson in today's legacy, is how we deal with that. Not just where have we come from, but also where are we going? What is going to change? How are we going to change the world in our own way? And that's the very important lesson in this book, is that we have that power to change within ourselves. And okay, so it's 265 pages of how we're going to change the world, but it's an entertaining way to do it. And there's also several different subplots that go on. Basically, I describe today's legacy as kind of a whole book and a whole plot based on very smaller subplots, which is, of course, is what any good book would be. But this one, all the subplots lead to the big plot, which leads to the bigger, huge series big plot. And that is a very important thing when you look at not only a book, but also the series in itself. Like, same with Harry Potter. All the Harry Potter books have different subplots in them that lead to a bigger plot. And I love J.K. Rowling. She's a great writer. But the way my books are structured, in a similar way to J.K. Rowling, but the subplots are huge. There's more drive in them. You want to keep reading. You want to know what happens next. And you have all of these questions that keep coming up, and they get answered answered later on in the series, and you still crave what is going to happen next because you don't know what's going to happen next. And well, okay, if you really read into the first book, then you know what's going to happen in the rest of the series. Now, what got me into writing was pretty much my music background. I really had a great career in music. I was in choirs since I was in grade, well, kindergarten. Since I was in kindergarten, I was in choirs all the time, and I really got into music when I was in grade school, elementary school. I My first instrument was a keyboard, and I used to play around on that and used to play and practice. And then going into high school, I actually went into the concert band, vocal ensemble, and even a jazz. Well, not it wasn't quite a jazz band, but it was more of like a mini orchestra type thing, if you can call it like that. It really wasn't. It was just pretty much four of us getting together who play very obscure instruments, two flutes, a French horn, which was me, and then a trombone. So it's not exactly any kind of ensemble that you could think of. But what got me into writing was I always wrote poetry. When I was in grade 5, I used to write poetry, all about how I was feeling. I got into that, and then I started doing some love poetry. Big surprise, if anyone who knows me, the big surprise that I write love poetry. And then from that, of course, I went into writing music, writing songs, and this is still in grade school, of course. And from writing songs, writing love songs, I got into writing opera. And so I wrote my first opera when I was, I think, 18. I can't remember if it was 18 or 16 or 17. It was one of those years. And that was my first big attempt at something huge other than a symphony. So I wrote a symphony and then my opera. And the opera was pretty good, and that's pretty much what helped me to get into actually writing for a living. But other than that, it was the short story that I did at Mohawk College with my mom that she actually did print out the second time, the 10-page or 15-page short story. I kept that. In high school, I did another short story called The Trio, which actually does come back later on in the series, but it is a separate trilogy. It's a fantasy book, and well, I could explain it later, but it comes back in the series because the main character Joey actually mentions what the trio is, right? Legend has it that these three men actually, whatever, right? I could go into it. I don't really have that much time. I can explain that later on or in my blog. But basically, that comes back. That's another series that I'm working on, and it comes back along with another series that I'm working on currently. It's a coming out story about four boys who actually find themselves in grade school and find out that they are blessed by being gay. So, and they're actually coming out to their parents and their family, and some of it goes really good, some of it is not a surprise, and others it's a total shock, which of course comes from my own experience too, as does many other people out there. So it all comes back, it all connects, and that's what got me into writing, is basically that the whole opera, it intrigued me, how creative I can be, how I can create my own world. And with today's legacy and the North Shore trilogy, sorry, not North Shore trilogy, the North Shore series, that's what I learned. That's what I did. I created this whole world that anything is possible in it. That if you work hard, you do what is expected of you, and you do what is right, that the reward actually pays off. That you actually can achieve anything you want. And that's the most important lesson that anyone can take away from these books. possibility. The future is bright. Everything is filled with hope. You just have to work hard at it. Some things come easy, some things don't. It takes years. The whole series is basically about good versus evil, as does any other series. That's essentially one aspect of it. Good versus evil. Good people who do good things are rewarded after the evil has been vanquished. The other one, of course, is if you work hard and if you figure everything out, you will get what you want in the end. You just have to persevere, keep pushing forward. And that's the message that I can give to any other author at this point is like, if you have been rejected so many times by the big, huge companies, is that keep pushing forward, keep moving, keep going. You're going to get it eventually. Don't give up. Keep going. Everything does get better, like in life too. If and especially in my first book, I talk about being bullied in my first two books, being bullied and being harassed. If you're constantly being bullied and harassed at school, it does get better. Those bullies do go away. You become bigger, stronger, and more well-rounded than they ever will be. They're just a problem right now. You have to rise above that and keep going. Conquer. Love does conquer all. And that's another lesson in my whole series as well, is that as much as you love somebody, it really does pay off in the end. And yes, okay, so maybe I do have a lot of happy endings in my stories, but I really do believe that when you do love someone that much, it really does happen. You really do have that happy ending. You just have to fight through the pain and arguing and whatever else now, so that you get to that rosy, rainbowy place in the end. And so basically, that is all about today's legacy and my whole series. Who is Dan Forte? Well, Dan Forte is basically every character in these books and so much more. I am a great person. Everyone who knows me loves to be around me, loves to hear my insights, hear my thoughts. They love to get to know me. They love pretty much just being around me. I'm a fantastic person to be around with. And I poured a lot of myself in these books. So a lot of aspects of these books are me. A lot of these characters are me. Like, I can name you all the characters that are so much like me. There's Joey, Timmy, the dad, of course, the mother, the grandmother. There's so much like me, and that Jordan, one of the friends, he's like me. Michael and David, they're like me, and I know these characters so well. There's nobody on this face of the planet that know these characters as well as I do. I know how they think, how they feel, what they want to do, what they'd say in any given situation. I know them so well. We're so connected with each other. And because I love these characters so much, I know you will love these characters so much. You will actually grow up with them. You'll actually experience what they experience, see what they go through, feel what they feel, embrace what they do and who they are. And yeah, okay, sure, there'll be some twists and turns and you're going, wait, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. But that's all part of the journey. And that's what these books are about, is like taking that journey, taking what life has to offer you. You can pick up the first book and say, okay, you know what? I don't want to go on this journey. Okay, fine. But if you go on the journey, you'll enrich your life. You'll actually experience new horizons and new experiences. That's what life is all about. Life is about experiencing what is new. It's about learning. In these books, they learn a huge lesson by themselves, all the characters. So you go on that learning journey as well, and you actually get to learn what they learn, and you don't actually have to do all the work behind it, because they do all the work. You're there to learn right along with them, and that's life. Life is one big lesson. These books are great, and Today's Legacy kicks it off. I would say, because I wrote Today's Legacy and Tomorrow's Tales and Yesterday's Past in from the point of view of one person, Joey McPherson, that alone enriches you because you are seeing it from that point of view. The middle four books, Crooker Island, The Homecoming, The Silver Speckled Trout, and Savannah George, those are from the point of view of Savannah, who comes in the first two books, but you don't really know who she is yet, unless you read the book. And then the last three books are from the point of Jordan Earls. Again, if you haven't read the books, this is way beyond you. Again, it's three different points of view in one series. Kind of brilliant. The next series, the 10th book to the 14th book, is from the point of view of Timmy McPherson. So they're all the same characters, just different points of view, and of course it does go from year to year, not one story from four different points of view. So it's progressive, it actually keeps going, it takes on a life of itself, and once you start reading the first book, you'll want to read the second book, and then after that you're hooked. You want to read the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. I'm telling you right now that once you get to the seventh and eighth and ninth book, especially the ninth book, you will not want to stop reading them. The seventh, eighth, and ninth book are so fantastic. Like the middle four, they're absolutely great because you get to go on like a treasure hunt type of thing. The first two books are about growing up, learning. It's about being self-aware, self-knowledgeable, discovering who you are. That's what the first two books are about. Like Today's Legacy, it's a discovery of who Joey McPherson is. Who is he? Those are all questions we can ask ourselves. Doesn't matter which phase of life we're in. If we're just going from being 12 years old into the teen years, we're going, who are we? Where do we belong? What's going on? Who are my friends? Who's my family? Is this really what's going on? Is this the real world? When you're going from being 17, 18, 19 into adulthood, you question yourself the same way. You're going, is this who I really am? Where do I really belong? Is this what I really want? Do I want this? Or am I going to be something else? Any phase of life, even if it's a death or a birth or, changing your living locations. If you're moving out, if you're going away to university or college, you're questioning yourself. Who are you? What do you want? So that's why this first book and the second book, actually anyone can relate because we've all been there. Or if you're 11, 10, 11, going to be there, it kind of helps you along the way. These are the questions you'll have to face along the way. And so we've all been there. We can all connect with these books. And that's the great thing about it, is that every book speaks to everyone. It's not specific to, okay, this is a vampire, so anyone who's into vampire books will read it. No, it's not about vampire books. It goes above and beyond, so everybody can connect with it. Doesn't matter if you're young, old, middle-aged, retired, if you're working, if you're a businessman, businesswoman, if you're a retail person, or it doesn't matter. If you're a doctor, a dentist, an astronaut, any career, you can actually connect with these books. And that's the whole idea behind the North Shore series, is that anyone from any walk of life can actually connect with these books. They can grow up with these characters and learn from them. And that is what is most important. especially about literature today, is that connection. We all have that connection. We're all connected. What happens to one of us affects the rest of us.